Imagine you are 50. You still train, you still show up, you still care, but your body has quietly changed the rules while you weren't looking. 10 years ago, you could lift heavy on Monday, sleep okay, and feel decent by Wednesday. Now the same session can leave your shoulders cranky for a week, your knees feeling older than your passport, and your energy dipping in ways you can't quite explain. And at some point you catch yourself thinking, maybe I'm just not built for this anymore. Here's the truth most people don't say out loud. For a lot of adults over 45, the problem isn't motivation, it's biology. Not in a dramatic, everything is falling apart way, but in a slow, steady shift. Your body gets less forgiving. Recovery gets slower. Tendons and connective tissue feel less springy. Sleep gets more fragile. And the signals that tell your body to build and repair get quieter. That's why you keep hearing the same buzzword online, peptides. And that's also why the internet is such a mess about them. One video calls peptides the fountain of youth. The next calls them dangerous nonsense. Some people talk like they're handing you a secret recipe. Others act like it's all placebo. So today, we're doing it the adult way. No hype, no copy this protocol, no dosing talk. Just a clear, straight explanation of what peptides are, what the science suggests they may influence, what's still uncertain, and what realistic goals look like for a midlife body. Welcome to Midlife Peptide Intelligence. If you're over 45 and you want honest, calm explanations without the internet drama, subscribe to Midlife Peptide Intelligence. This channel is built for the still want to be strong at 60 crowd, not the break your body for a short-term flex crowd. Now let's build the foundation, because without the foundation, peptides make no sense. Your body is basically a constant construction site. Every day you break down some tissue, and every day you rebuild some tissue. When you are younger, the rebuilding crew is fast, well-funded, and always on call. When you get older, the crew is still there, but the schedule is tighter, the materials are more expensive, and the foreman is pickier. That's why you can train the same way you did at 30 and get a different outcome at 50. Muscle and bone are also connected more than most people realize. Muscle pulls on bone. Bone responds to load. When muscle strength drops, balance often drops. When balance drops, fall risk goes up. When fall risk goes up, bone health suddenly becomes a real-life issue, not a medical topic you scroll past. For midlife adults, muscle building is not just about looking better, it is about staying capable. It is about being the person who can carry groceries, pick up a suitcase, climb stairs, and still move like a human being instead of a fragile museum piece. So why do peptides show up in this conversation? Because peptides are signals. Peptides are short chains of amino acids, which are the same building blocks that make up proteins. But peptides are not just protein. Think of many peptides as messages. A peptide can bind to a receptor on a cell and tell that cell to start, stop, speed up, or slow down a process. Some peptides exist naturally in the body. Some are synthetic versions designed to copy or influence those natural messages. That is the good part and the dangerous part at the same time. The good part is that signaling molecules can sometimes nudge biology in a direction you want, like better tissue repair or better recovery. The dangerous part is that biology is not a simple machine. A signal can have side effects. It can ripple into other systems. It can behave differently depending on age, sleep, stress, nutrition, and medical history. So here's the core rule for this entire video. Peptides are not a replacement for training, sleep, and nutrition. They are never the main character. They are at best a supporting actor, and only after the basics are solid and the medical risks are understood. With that said, the peptide world for midlife muscle and bone usually circles around two big themes. The first theme is the growth hormone pathway and the insulin-like growth factor 1 pathway. The second theme is tissue repair, especially tendons, ligaments, and connective tissue. Let's unpack the first theme in plain language. Growth hormone is a hormone produced by the pituitary gland. One of its jobs is to help regulate tissue repair, body composition, and metabolism. It does not work like a simple muscle growth switch. It works more like a manager that influences many departments at once. One reason growth hormone matters in the peptide conversation is that growth hormone stimulates the production of insulin-like growth factor 1, mostly in the liver, but also in other tissues. Insulin-like growth factor 1 plays a role in cell growth and repair. In muscle, insulin-like growth factor 1 is involved in signaling pathways that can support protein synthesis and muscle remodeling after training. In bone, insulin-like growth factor 1 is involved in bone turnover and formation processes, although bone health is influenced by many other factors too. As people age, growth hormone secretion patterns tend to change. The body releases growth hormone in pulses, often linked to sleep. Those pulses can become smaller or less frequent with age, especially when sleep quality declines, stress increases, and body fat increases. This does not mean every person over 45 has low growth hormone. It means the system is more likely to be less robust. This is why some peptides are designed to stimulate the body's own growth hormone release, rather than providing growth hormone directly. In theory, stimulating natural pulses may look more like normal physiology, but in theory is not the same as guaranteed benefits with no trade-offs. This is also where medical oversight matters, because pushing these pathways can affect fluid balance, blood sugar control, and other metabolic markers in some people. One peptide often discussed in this context is sermorelin. Sermorelin is designed to mimic a part of the body's natural growth hormone-releasing hormone. Growth hormone-releasing hormone is what the body uses to tell the pituitary gland, release growth hormone now. When people talk about sermorelin, they are usually talking about gently encouraging that message. The best way to think about sermorelin is not instant muscle. The more realistic conversation is about whether someone has symptoms and lab patterns that suggest their growth hormone signaling might be less active, and whether improving that signaling could support better recovery or body composition over time. It is not a quick transformation. It is more like adjusting the volume on a system that has become quieter with age. Another set of peptides you will hear constantly online are the ones that mimic ghrelin signaling. Ghrelin is often called the hunger hormone, but it does more than make you hungry. It also influences growth hormone release. Some peptides act as growth hormone secretagogues, meaning they stimulate the release of growth hormone, often by tapping into ghrelin-related receptors. In online conversations, people often talk about combinations in this category because they want to influence growth hormone release through more than one signaling route. The risk is that the internet treats this like a harmless optimization hack. It is not automatically harmless. Changing growth hormone and insulin-like growth factor 1 signaling can come with trade-offs, especially for people with prediabetes risk, metabolic syndrome, sleep apnea, or other midlife health realities. So if you're over 45 and you're hearing growth hormone peptides everywhere, the smartest mindset is not, how do I do this? The smartest mindset is, do I even have a problem in this system? And if so, what are the safest, medically supervised ways to address it? Now let's talk about the second theme, because for many adults over 45, this is the real bottleneck: tissue repair. Here's something nobody wants to hear until they experience it. Many midlife lifters are not limited by muscle effort. They are limited by tendons and connective tissue. Your muscles might be willing, your mind might be willing, but the tissues that connect muscle to bone often adapt slower, especially after years of wear, repetitive training, and reduced recovery capacity. That's why you hear so much about a peptide called BPC-157. BPC-157 stands for Body Protection Compound 157. It is a synthetic peptide that is based on a sequence found in a larger protein derived from gastric, meaning stomach, processes in the body. The reason people are excited about it is that in preclinical research, especially animal studies, BPC-157 has been linked to effects on tissue healing. Researchers have explored its influence on processes like angiogenesis, which is the formation of new blood vessels, and on signaling pathways involved in inflammation and repair. In simple language, the story people tell is this: if a tissue is injured, it needs blood supply, it needs controlled inflammation, and it needs rebuilding signals. BPC 157 is often described as a peptide that may support the body's repair environment by influencing those kinds of processes. But here is the adult version of the story. Most of what you see online is based on early-stage research, animal models, and anecdotal reports. That does not automatically mean it does nothing. It also does not automatically mean it is a proven therapy with a known long-term safety profile for general use. Those are very different claims. Also, even if a compound supports repair signaling, it does not magically rewrite physics. If you overload an injured tendon too quickly, you can still re-injure it. You cannot biohack your way out of poor load management. In midlife, the winning strategy is usually not fastest possible return. It is smartest possible return. That means rehab exercises, progressive loading, good movement patterns, and enough time. Peptides, if used in legitimate medical contexts, would be a supplement to that process, not a replacement. Another name that often appears in the tissue repair conversation is thymosin beta 4, and you will sometimes hear a related name, TB500, which is often discussed as a fragment or version used in research contexts. Thymosin beta 4 is a naturally occurring peptide involved in cell movement and tissue repair processes. In research, it has been explored for roles in wound healing and inflammation modulation. Again, the internet often turns this into a superhero narrative. Repair mode activated. Biology does not work like that. Repair is a sequence of steps: inflammation, cleanup, rebuilding, remodeling. Interfering at the wrong time can be counterproductive. And for many peptides discussed online, the biggest challenge is not only does it work, but also how safe is it? What is the quality control? And what is the legal medical framework where you live? Now, because your channel is about peptides for adults over 45, we also need to talk about bones in a mature, responsible way. Strong bones are not built by a single signal. Bone is living tissue that constantly breaks down and rebuilds. That process is called remodeling. Two main types of cells are involved: osteoclasts, which break down bone, and osteoblasts, which build bone. Healthy bone is about balance. Training, especially resistance training and impact where appropriate, encourages bone formation because bone responds to mechanical load. Nutrition and hormones also influence remodeling. Sleep and chronic inflammation influence it too. In medicine, there are therapies that influence bone remodeling directly, and some of them are peptide-based. But those are generally prescription treatments for osteoporosis and related conditions. They are not casual fitness tools, and they should not be treated like supplements. If someone is at risk for low bone density, the smartest move is a medical assessment, because the difference between "I want stronger bones" and "I have osteoporosis" is huge, and the management is different. So where do peptides fit for a midlife audience that wants muscle and bone building? They fit as a knowledge topic first. They fit as a questions to ask your clinician second. And they fit as a possible tool only in the context of legitimate medical oversight and careful monitoring. Monitoring matters because midlife is when silent risks become real risks. Blood sugar control can change. Blood pressure can change. Sleep apnea can appear. Cardiovascular risk can climb. Some signaling pathways that sound like recovery can also influence fluid retention, insulin sensitivity, and other markers that you do not want to gamble with. This is the difference between being 45 plus and being 25. At 25, you can sometimes get away with being reckless. At 55, your body keeps receipts. Now let me tell you the real secret that the peptide world often hides behind glamorous before and after stories. Most people who look amazing at 50 are not using a magic molecule. They are doing boring things consistently. They strength train with patience. They protect their joints. They sleep like it matters. They eat enough protein. They walk. They manage stress. They avoid injury cycles. They treat health markers like part of fitness. Peptides, if they are part of the picture at all, are a small part. And the older you are, the more true that becomes. So if you're listening and thinking, okay, but I still want a clear map, here is the clean map in normal sentences. There are peptides and peptide-like therapies that aim to influence growth hormone signaling and insulin-like growth factor 1 signaling. They are discussed because those systems relate to recovery and body composition, and because those signals tend to change with age. People talk about them as if they are a fountain of youth, but the reality is that they can have variable effects. They can carry metabolic trade-offs for some individuals, and they require careful medical context to be considered responsibly. There are peptides discussed for tissue repair like BPC 157 and thymosin beta-4 related compounds, largely because early research suggests they may influence healing-related processes like blood vessel formation and inflammation modulation. But the human evidence base and long-term safety picture for general use are not as clean and settled as the internet often pretends. Anyone treating them like a casual shortcut is missing the point. And there are medical therapies that influence bone remodeling, including peptide-based drugs, but those are clinical treatments and should be approached as healthcare decisions, not fitness experiments. If you take nothing else from this video, take this. Midlife optimization is not about chasing the strongest signal. It is about building the most stable system. And stability has a simple blueprint. Train with progressive overload, but respect recovery. Use controlled technique and joint-friendly movement patterns. Eat enough protein and total calories for your goals. Sleep like it is your best supplement. Walk and move daily to keep your metabolism and connective tissue healthy. Track basic health markers, because blood pressure and blood sugar do not care about your biceps. Then, and only then, do peptides even become a sensible conversation, and that conversation should be medical and individualized, not internet-driven. If you appreciate this kind of calm, science-first content made specifically for adults over 45, subscribe to Midlife Peptide Intelligence. It helps the channel, and it keeps you away from the noisy, risky side of fitness internet. Before we wrap, I want to give you a reason to click into the next video immediately, because it connects to what we just talked about. A lot of people over 45 do not only struggle with recovery, they struggle with drive, libido, motivation, that feeling of spark. And the internet is just as chaotic about libido peptides as it is about muscle peptides. So the next video is called Every Libido Peptide Explained in 10 Minutes, No Nonsense. And in that video, I will break down 3 names you see everywhere in normal English, without weird bravado and without telling you to self-experiment. We will talk about PT-141, which is discussed because it can influence sexual arousal pathways in the brain. We will talk about Kisspeptin-10, which is discussed because it interacts with the hormone signaling that influences reproductive hormones. And we will talk about oxytocin, which is often reduced to a bonding hormone meme, but has a more complex role in social connection and stress regulation. If libido and midlife energy are topics you care about, you will want that next episode. Watch it right after this one, because it completes the picture. Strength, recovery, and desire are not separate islands. They are connected by sleep, stress, metabolism, and the nervous system. All right, that's it for today. No hype, no secret recipes, just real understanding. This was Midlife Peptide Intelligence. Subscribe if you want more videos that respect your age, your goals, and your health. And I'll see you in the next one.